Okay, so this is going to be sort of ad lib and more interactive than most Air to use because I got a bunch of random notes, but I'm mostly going to go based on questions and things people come up with. So I'm going to essentially start on trying to cover how to get editing with Vim, like just the basics, just so you can edit files. I mean, you can go online, find all kinds of advanced techniques and tricks, and I'll show some of them off. But again, my purpose is just to get people comfortable with editing with Vim, and then after that, you can learn some of the cool stuff. So, one thing you're gonna find this very useful is having your own vimrc, and vimrc lets you essentially run commands every time you start up your Vim. So by default, when you start up Vim, it's hard to read, especially in the black background. It's very dark colors, and you can. One of the key things right at the beginning. Oh, you gotta move up a bit, can we? I can't see. Can you guys see that at all? Smaller. No, my thing.
You're ready.
Huh?
Ready? Can you keep the lights on? Off now. You can off these ones. Maybe the lights later. Oh, sorry, you're late. Oh, yeah. Better.
Okay, so let's try this again. So we have our basic Vim. It's like I said, it's hard to read. It's kind of dark. So one of the key things, if there's one of the things that I think most people find right away once they start using Vim is they want to be able to make it easier to read. So one of the key things you want to start off with is set background equals dark or light. So if you like having a white screen, you can do light. If you like having a dark screen, you want dark. So that goes in, and then it's hard to see here, but it does change the color scheme slightly so that it looks at brighter colors on the dark screen. But you don't want to have to do that every time you go and edit any file. So that's where vimrc comes in, and I'll show more about that later. But essentially, all you want to do is you got your vimrc in your home directory, wherever you are in Linux. And in here you can put whatever Vim commands you want. So like I said, I'm just going to go set background dark. And I'm doing this now just so that I don't have to keep doing this every time we show off stuff. Alright? So if I come into Vim now, you'll see the color is a lot brighter, it's much easier to read. So those are just, you can just run any normal Vim command in your vimrc, and it happens every time you start up. Okay, so now I'm going to cover starting on some of the basics of just editing a file in Vim. So we got, or let's say, starting Vim, there's essentially two ways to do it. You can just run Vim, and that gives you a nice console, but then you have to try to load your file and everything like that. The other way is just to run Vim with your the file you want to edit. So I have this file called words, which is just every word in the dictionary, and it's just easy to as a sample text file. That's really all it is. So again, command line, you can just go Vim words, and I'm going to assume at this point forward everyone knows at least this much Vim, right? Okay. So once you're into Vim, there's a couple of key features. You can some people will tell you have to use certain keys to move around, but personally I'm quite happy using the page up, page down, and the arrow keys to move around. So I mean, like any other editor, you can do that. You can actually, I'll show you guys later, you can actually hook up the mouse the same way. So I mean, as a basic editor, you can do all the basic editing stuff. The only difference is when you want to start actually doing some editing. One of the key things is whenever you're in Vim, before you do anything, you're not sure what state you're in, just remember to keep doing escape. Escape is a nice, safe command. It gets you out of anything you're doing. So if you're in the middle of typing a command, you can hit escape and it goes away. If you're middle of editing, you can hit escape and it goes away. So just remember, if you're not sure where you are, just hit escape a couple times. once you're inside of editing, if you want to make any changes, the simplest way is just to hit the I key, and you're in insert mode. And you see, if you guys look in the bottom corner, it says insert mode, so it's kind of trying to tell you what you guys are doing. And in there, you can just type as normal, right? No problem. You can still hit up or down, but just type, right? So very simple. Now we can move around and edit. And then you hit escape again, and you're out. And then the last very simple step would be how to save and quit. So Vim has another set of steps, which is colon. Every time you, so again, hit escape repeatedly to get out of what you're doing. You hit colon, you get to type in any commands you want to do. You can set up, save, whatever. So colon W is save, and colon Q is quit. Right? So again, pretty simple. It's a little bit more trickier than a normal editor where you can just hit save and quit, but same sort of thing. You can also combine the commands, so you can have WQ, which is save and quit in one step. Yeah, so at this point I don't really have any plans, so I'm just going to come up, unless someone asks me any questions, I'm just going to come up with some random things. So.
How do you save to a different file?
Okay, so let's say we're in our Words text file, and you want to save to another file. Again, you go W for save, which is write to disk, and then you give it a new file name. So gavin2.txt. And then I got a new file there called gavin2.
Now we just go W and save to the original.
No, it saves to the original one. I don't know. Nope. Yeah, so I don't personally know how to save and switch to the new file. So if you save to a new file, it just saves what you have right now to the file, but it still edits the original. You can always open it again, so you have the option of quitting and opening again. So quitting and opening gavin2.txt, and then you're in the new file. You can also use both. Okay, the only one I know about is n. So you can always use n, :n, to load a new file. Use what? Okay, so apparently :E as well.
Yeah, E will replace the original one you were working with the one that you loaded. It basically replaces.
And n does the same thing too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's new and open are about the same. I think :n is really just for. No. Anyways, so apparently :E is for opening file. I don't really know why :n works then, but I've always used :n for opening a new file.
Keep the other file you're working on in the background as well.
Maybe.
:E will replace this, so as close as your system opens the new one, :n is all.
That sounds reasonable.
So if you switch back on :n to the different page.
That sounds reasonable. I don't really know. Again, I'm not an expert at Vim. I just learned what I learned. So, yeah. Okay, some other useful stuff. Actually, this is an order of useful stuff. Okay, so we open up our file as normal, and we want to go to a specific line. So let's say we want to go line 100. So we go :100. That jumps directly to that line. If we turn on, I don't want to do that yet. Anyways, if we turn on line numbers, I'll show you exactly. But you see, if we can jump to any other number. We can jump to 20, jump to 30, jump to 40, 60, whatever. So you can jump specifically to that file or that line. You can also do it on the command line. When you open it, you can always do +60, which jumps directly to line 60. And if you look very carefully at the bottom down here, you can see it says line 60, column 1. And we're 0% of the file. Like, it tells you how much of the file you've scrolled into too. So if you go down to the bottom, you see we're at 98 or 99% of the file. As I was just doing there, there's two quick commands for going to the top and the bottom. So we have Shift G, which goes to the bottom of the file, and double G, which goes to the top of the file. So Shift G to the bottom and double G to the top. Again, I'm not really sure why it's like that. It's just it is. The entire system is designed. Once you get really comfortable with Vim, you can actually keep your hands entirely on just the keyboard part, and never actually. You don't even have to move to the mouse or anything. You can actually, I'm holding down J. I can go down, and K to go up, right? Again, if you get more comfortable with it, it's very nice because again, your hands just stay right on the keyboard. you don't have to go back and forth all the time. But when you're starting to learn Vim, it's quite easy just to use page up, page down, and the arrow keys. Yeah. Okay. And I guess the only other basic thing I want to cover is searching. So if you're anywhere in the file and you want to search, you can search for, you start off again, hit escape, make sure you're out of every mode. You hit your slash key, and then you can just type in what you want to search for. So it will it'll highlight, in the default mode, it will highlight whatever you're trying to search for and bring you to that thing. And if you want to search again, you can just hit slash and enter again. Just keep slash enter, which is one way to search, or you can hit N by itself, which just goes to the next one. Both of those are pretty valid ways of searching for other things. If you want to search backwards in the file, it's question mark. So we go question mark apple, and we go backwards through the file.
So N is next.
N is next. I don't.
But if you are, did you slash into backwards?
Yeah. So if you're doing slash apple, and you hit N, it goes down. If you can see there, it goes down. You hit question mark apple, and you hit N.
But if I did just slash, you can't just go backwards.
Not that I know how. I'm sure there is a shift. Okay, so apparently shift N gets you back the opposite direction. So I learned something. Okay, so the next key thing that I'm going to show you guys, which I think most people don't cover at the beginning of Vim, is visual mode. Visual mode is one of my favorite ways to do any editing in Vim. You can do Control-V, which lets you go one column at a time. You can do V, which lets you do as many characters as you want at a time. There's Shift-V, which lets you do line at a time. I mostly just do Shift-V, because that's all I ever need to do. I only need to work on lines at a time. So with visual mode, you can actually do whatever all your normal basic commands to that. So you can actually say, I want to, I haven't covered any of those, have I? Okay, well I guess I'm going to backtrack a bit here.
We'll do like
I know,
cut and paste.
yeah. Okay, so Vim has a very basic, basic Vim has very basic cut and copy support. So if you want to copy, you use Y twice, which is yank. So it means it keeps a copy of it, saves it, and then you can paste it again. To hit paste, or to paste, it's always P. So you can go YYP, YYP, YYP. You can hit P over and over again repeatedly, right? You can also hit, you can also prefix it with a number. So you can go 10Y, which copies 10 lines, and then paste, and then you can, 10Y, which copies, and then, is that not working? Is it? Let's do the other one. The one I know that works. And the other one would be cut, though. So if you want to delete a line, it's DD. So that deletes a line. That's all it does. Now you can always do 10 DD, which deletes in 10 lines. You know, you can do 8,000 DD, and it deletes 8,000 lines. It just lets you repeat the same command over and over again. Now that being said, I don't find that very useful because frankly I don't want to count lines constantly whenever I want to do things. So that I find visual mode most useful for. You can go Shift D, select all the lines you want to do something to, and then hit D and deletes it. So nice and simple, just like a basic editor again. And you can select many lines and hit Y for copy, and then paste again, same thing. So you can do, and I'll cover a bunch more commands later that you can do that kind of thing with. It just makes it easier than counting lines all the time and doing one line at a time. So visual mode, copy, which is Y, and P for paste.
In visual mode, can you start the paste and then do a search for and then take your paste down to?
Yeah, I don't. Well, I didn't quite hear what you said, but you can turn on visual mode and then search for a word, and it will bring you down to that. Yeah, that's what you meant. Yeah. So you can select all the way down to wherever you want, and you can copy and then paste again, or do whatever you want. Yeah. And same thing with delete. But it gets really interesting because what you can do is go Control-V, which is column select, and select everything in the first column, and then hit delete D and delete it. So again, if you're in code and you want to uncomment on code, that's a quick and easy way to uncomment everything else.
So how would you add the comment?
Yes. Get into search and replace. So I can do that now. So search and replace is another very common thing in editor. This one unfortunately requires a bit of regular expression knowledge, although in this case it's really not that complicated. So I'm going to do a visual mode just so you guys can see really quickly. So let's say I select these 4 lines. So I've selected them and I go colon and then I do my command. And my command is s slash, then what I'm looking for, so PO line point, and then what I want to replace it with. So Gavin. So if you guys can see in the bottom, I don't know, but it says, it has some weird thing in the beginning that says you're on visual mode, followed by s slash point slash Gavin. So what that will do is replace, of what I selected, replace point with Gavin. If you want to do an entire file, you can do, I think it's actually set s, and then you can do the same thing, point Gavin, which does the same thing. It finds any instance of the word point and replaces it with Gavin. You can actually do by lines as well. So in this case, if I want to say I want to do 2 to 20, search for Gavin and replace it with point. Or sorry, search for point, replace it with Gavin. So I can do that. So that would be 2, 20, which is which lines you want to support. So most of these commands you can do that kind of thing too. I don't know if you can delete that way either. Nope. Okay.
What if you want to comment out
Right. Okay.
a block?
So this is the one command I find I use over and over again. So let's say in Perl I want to comment out 2 to 26. So I highlight 2 to 26, I search, and I search for the beginning of the line, which in regular expression is a little caret symbol. And you replace that with a hashtag, and you got your commenting out. I mean, you can do the same thing with C style, which is, you know, star or whatever else you need. If you need to put a slash, you have to backslash it. So I don't know if you guys can see, but it's backslash slash backslash slash. Just kind of amusing to look at. But again, it just can add the slashes that way. Now, a lot of the time, I don't know if you guys have been seeing, I keep undoing. Undoing and redoing is probably the next thing that's really useful for people in Vim. So undo is pretty obviously U, right? No problem there. And then redo, shit, R. It's Control R, isn't it? Yeah. So undo U and then Control R, redo. So if you undo too far, you can always redo again.
Gavin. Another way to do that, if you don't want to do the regular expression stuff, is
Yeah.
Control V and select the column in front of
Oh, yeah,
whatever you want to
yeah.
block out.
And then insert.
Control I, and then your
Control I.
Shift I. Sorry, Shift I.
Yeah.
So highlight, Shift I, put in your comment thing, and then escape.
I see. Nice.
I use that quite frequently.
That does bring me to a very useless but awesome feature. Well, useless to me. You can always prefix a lot of your commands with numbers. So let's say I wanted to do something 50 times. I go 50 and then I, and then I go hi there, and I put new line, and it will do that 50 times. So far, I haven't really found a use for it, but it's kind of cool. You can do the same thing. It's good for if you're doing garbage, like you're just putting in some garbage text for sample. You can always do, again, you do 50 I, and then do that, and hit escape, and it repeats it over and over again. Again, not that useful, but kind of cool. Deleting. Okay, I'm going to keep coming back to this fact that you can always put numbers before commands. So in this case, let's say I want to delete a single character. You can always do visual mode and then delete it, but that gets kind of tedious if you're just doing one character. There's an X, the X key will delete a single character, and that's all it will do. Delete, delete, delete. Delete, delete. Delete. So you can always do, if you feel like it, you can always do 50X, and it deletes 50 characters.
How about deleting the current cursor position at the end of the line?
Ah, okay. See if I remember how to do that. I do it, but half the time I don't remember. Huh? $? Sign?
Yeah.
Huh. I always use Shift D. No. Yeah. I always use Shift D. But that also works in Bash, I think.
Should we also say DW instead of the word?
Okay, so we're gonna start again just so we have some good sample data. So huh? It's good stuff. Screw it up. 50 A B C D E F G. Okay, so as they were saying, there's various ways to delete a line or the rest of the line. If you just want to delete a line again, that's double D, double D, double D. If you want to delete the rest of the line, if you hit escape a bunch of times, so you're in the normal regular mode, you can hit Shift D and that deletes the rest of the line. You can also hit D $, which deletes until the end of the line. Does that also work? D6? No. But as Sean was pointing out, there are a few other cool commands for deleting less than that. One of the ones I find most useful is DW, which deletes word. So again, I'll show you something a little bit. So if I go to the beginning of Gavin, I go DW, it deletes that word. So just remember, delete word. It's very easy. Another one very similar is change word, so which is CW, which deletes it, but then lets you continue typing. So if you're just changing one or two characters, CW is very nice. If you want to get rid of it, DW. On top of that, if you remember W will jump between words, so you can keep going forward. One word at a time. And again, 50W will go 50 words ahead of time. I got this cheat sheet from the last time I did this presentation. I'll pass around. It has just a bunch of random commands on it. I'm probably not going to cover most of them.
Gavin, what about if you're editing a file, like say a test file, if you want it to show up as the syntax highlighting for the language?
I'll do syntax highlighting a little bit later. Okay, I'm just trying to get through the basics of just some of the stuff that you might want to do while you're editing a file. That's more the advanced stuff. Yeah. It's on here though. I'm getting it. Okay, so one of the things that sometimes happens is you're in a file and you realize, okay, you've edited, you're like, shit, I don't want to do this anymore, and you want to get out. You try to quit, it says, oh no, you can't quit, right? So if you remember, if you put an exclamation point, you say, I really, really, really want to quit. And now it says, okay, I'll throw away your changes and quit. So yeah, again, you can do your changes and quit. Q doesn't quit, Q exclamation point quits.
What if I don't want to quit? But I want to get rid of my
save my changes and quit.
We already went through that. If you were here at the beginning, you would have known that. But just for Alan's sake, we'll go over it again. So just a reminder, :W saves, :WQ is save and quit.
Wouldn't it be awesome if you do that with just 2 characters instead of like present X?
Yeah, we won't cover that yet. I'm not doing that advanced yet.
But if you are editing something and you want to undo, basically you want to throw away your changes before you save them, but you don't want to exit the editor.
I don't know that one.
Oh, :E exclamation. It'll leave you in the file that you're editing, but it will undo back to the
basically
beginning.
reread and reload the file.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to write that one down.
That's the same as switching files.
Yeah, it's just
exclamation mark. It's just :E with
If you edit,
if you've done changes and you haven't saved them, it'll tell you haven't. Yeah.
Okay, I learned something. This is awesome.
you got the Control-E, Control-Y.
No. What is Control E and Control
If you
Y?
want to move up and down in the file, but you don't want your cursor to move, like if you're almost at the bottom and you just want to move all the text up a little bit.
So that just moves your file around, doesn't actually do anything. Control E.
So it changes the display, not the.
Oh.
But the key being it leaves your cursor in the same spot, so you can basically move the file around with the keyboard without having to sit.
Okay. So Control E will move your the text up, leaves your character where you are. Control Y brings you back down again. E and Y. Again, I didn't know that one. I'll write that one down. Okay. So is there any questions on anything I haven't covered just for the basics? No? Okay. So I'm going to start covering some of the stuff that you probably actually saw me use, but I didn't cover yet. So one of the things that some people really like is having line numbers everywhere. So there's some basic toggles you can do in Vim to turn on some of the extra features. So one of them is set number. Set number turns the number on. You can also say set no number, turns it off. So this works with any option. If you set it on, you can always turn it off by setting no of that. On top of that, you can also go set number exclamation point, and it toggles it. So if you end up, I know, long-term writing some script or something, putting exclamation point at the end of your set will always toggle whatever you have on. So yeah, number's good. Another one, very useful. So let's say you have your editing in Vim and you want to dump a bunch of content in. If you go colon set paste, it disables any auto indenting, any processing, anything whatsoever. So you can just insert, and then you turn on insert, just as normal. You see in the bottom it says paste. It lets you dump whatever you want into it, and it won't try to indent or clean up or anything like that. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to know that, anyways. I don't.
Other stuff like auto commenting.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that get turned on by default or stuff that are nice to have. This just makes sure no matter what, it will insert properly. Okay, so Vim has a bunch of mechanisms for whatever you're editing. It tries to be smart about it or polite about it. And I hope this works on this version. So if I'm editing a profile, so let's say I make Gavin.pl. Hey, in Perl, print hello world. You can see right away that this highlighted much different than the dictionary file, which was all one color. Again, if I upload a C, I go int main. Right, again, it tries the highlight for you. Additionally, I'm going to do both of these, but Perl. Vim will also, as Vim pointed out, do some auto indenting for you. So if we're on some sort of, we're typing away AF, AB. Oh, it doesn't do auto indenting by default. Cover that. Let's say you had it turned on, and I can show you guys. I'll show you guys how to do it later. Oh, it doesn't even do that by default. Okay, so one of the things which is really nice about Vim is it has support for auto indenting then, and that's turned on by doing C indent. So once you're in C indent, you can. Is it C indent or smart indent?
Smart indent.
Smart indent. Both of them do similar things. There we go. So if you're working on code and you're working away, you open a new bracket, you can enter, and you're on the new line, right? And you close the bracket. Now let's say this was really long, and you didn't want to go find the file at the end. One of the cool things is Vim has a lot of extra little features, which means you can highlight yourself on one of the parentheses, so either the parentheses or the braces, and hit %, which is shift 5, and it jumps to the other end of the matching bracket. It's very nice for jumping around and finding things. And that works for visual mode too, so you can always select something and highlight it in visual mode and then delete it. It's gone. So going back to the beginning, I was mentioning vimrc is a nice little thing to have the same things that you want set up every time. So again, edit your vimrc file, and we're going to just for this, we're going to go set smart indent and set C indent. I don't know what does what, but both of them will okay, maybe it's just smart to indent. I have both of them turned on, and it does all the indenting needs for me. So another one, which is a very useful one here in company, our coding standard is we want spaces instead of tabs. So we go set expand tab. So that will say expand any tab you put in your code to be spaces. Set. I don't know the other ones right now.
Smart tab.
What's smart tab? I have that set too. I don't know what it does.
It does something when you're tabbing, like it's already tabbed in, something like that. I always set smart indent, smart tab.
Does expand tab automatically send to four spaces or does it split spaces?
Good one. I don't know what the default is. Again, I've set this a long time ago and forgot about it. But you can go set expand shift width equals 4 and set tab stop equals 4. Tab stop is how many spaces it inserts when you hit tab, and shift width is actually a cool feature which I'll show you guys in a second. But both of them, it's better you want to set them to about the same thing. So again, we're going to edit our little profile. So let's say we take these commands and we want to move them. I mean, we can always do search, find the beginning of the file, and add some spaces. But that can get tedious over and over again. So one of the cool things you can do is you can select the lines you want to do, and then hit, let's say, 5, and then the angle bracket that you want to go in the direction. So if I want to make it go forward, I can go that way, and then I want to do one more, I can go the other way. Right? So again, if I want to do this 3 times, I can do 3 in the angle bracket. So that's just the the greater than less than sign, whichever direction you want to go. So that is controlled by shift width. So if I go set shift width equals 100 and I shift in, it does all of them, shift out, does the new line. I guess another thing that I could point out here, some people care or don't care. You have word wrap. So set word wrap and set what?
Wrap.
Did I type it wrong?
Just wrap.
Set wrap. Okay, set wrap and set no wrap, which puts everything as long as it can go. What were you asking me earlier? C indent, auto indent, smart indent, paste, indent line.
You have a question now.
Ooh.
I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Now you have a whole bunch of ones that you did review. Is there any way that Vim can fix that for you?
Why? Yes, there is, Nigel. So again, the easiest way you can do it entire file, but again, the easiest way and the most likely way is you want to select what you want to indent. So select it, and again, we're going to use a little % sign and select everything, and then we hit the equal sign. An equal sign. Set shift equals 4. Let's try that again. Highlight everything you want, and then equal sign, and that will neaten everything up. It tries to be smart. If it knows about Perl rules, it tries to do Perl syntax. But if it doesn't know what it's doing, it just makes them the same as the line before it. So everything nice and neat.
There's a neat trick where you can tell equals to control height,
Yeah.
and then you can, and that's pretty cool. You can automatically reformat your
Okay, let's do some other fun ones. Again, you guys can interrupt me at any point with something you need to know or want to know. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so let's say some of these are out of order. Actually, let me get rid of these. Let's say you had them like this, and if you can't read them, that's 1, 3, 8, 5, 6, 4, 7, 9, and 2. One of the cool things Vim can do is pull in Linux commands. So Linux has a nice little command called sort. So you can select everything you want and go colon exclamation point sort, which says take the stuff that we have here, pass it into the sort command, and then take whatever sort gives you and put it back in here. So we do that, we get back as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other cool thing is you can do, same with the exclamation point, you can do colon R and then any other command. So date, R, host name, I don't know. Can't think of anything else. I don't think that work here. But
So R replace that line that you're on, or is it adding maybe after that? Or you hold R in places, right?
no, it adds it after.
You can also use
Like you know the visual holes and you select the date, there's our date, and place that whole date.
What else do we have on here?
see some sense of search.
Yeah.
Smart case. Use that one.
Smart case is interesting. I find it more annoying than useful, but I will cover that. So where's our words file? Words. Do we have any cases in here? We do. Actually, that brings me another one. So let's say you got a bunch of text and you're like, oh shit, this is all multi-case. I want to make it all capitals. So you go Shift U, makes everything capitals. And the same thing is if you want to go lowercase, you go highlight everything, you press U, and you go lowercase. Again, not overly useful, but there are rare cases where it's been actually useful, so it's good to know. So in this case, we have, let's say we have all these words and they are uppercase, right? So by default search, so if I'm searching for ology, it will not find that word because it's case sensitive. So you can always go, case or capital and find that, but sometimes you're not really sure what's in the file. So you can go set ignore case, and then when you do a search, it will actually find both cases. But again, sometimes that's not quite what you want. Maybe most, well. So I leave that off by default. You can always turn on smart case, which I believe does only, if you don't have any capital letters in, it just assumes that you want lowercase. But once you do,
No, if you just search for all lowercase,
It does.
a case-insensitive search, but as soon as you shift
Right,
your case,
sorry.
which is really helpful here because we use the funky camel case, so it's very helpful for that.
we can show that. So if I go set a smart case, I go sub engage. Sorry, it's Clux. I don't think that's the way it works.
I always do it.
Smart
Yeah.
case and
You
we're
have to do smart case and smart case.
Okay. So I guess so if you turn on ignore case and smart case, it will find any case. But if you do do I have
Search for one.
yeah.
Is that search like a regex?
Yeah. Well, it's like a regex, it's not a
So
regular.
we could use I at the end. So can you just go slash plus and put I at the end?
I don't know.
That'll search.
I don't know. I never tried it. I'll try it again after I clear everything up. Anyways, what I was going to say is, so handler, you see right there, it searches, it finds both capital H and lowercase h, right? Right next to each other, it finds all the various handlers. But if I do handler with a capital, because I have smart case and ignore case on, it only finds ones that are uppercase, because it assumes it knows what you know what you're doing. So I don't personally use this very much, but I think some people do and find it very useful, right? No?
I do.
No one does. Okay, so set no smart case, set no ignore case. So what are you saying? Handler I?
Yeah.
Apparently.
It says finding all lowercase.
No, it's not finding the uppercase one. I don't know what it does with the I then. It ignores it. Oh, Vim did. Okay, I guess this is the last of my moderate ones, and then we'll go into ones that people like a lot. So VimDiff is a separate tool in Vim. There's ways to turn it on inside of Vim, but it's kind of annoying and hard. So VimDiff lets you take two files, so words and Gavin2.txt. And what it does is try to highlight their differences. And look at that, there are no differences. Let me make some differences. Okay, let's try that again. So vimdiff, words, and Gavin 2. So what it will do is try to highlight the differences between the two files. So you see in the bottom you got words and Gavin 2, right? And they'll just highlight their differences and try to do it as best as you can. The ones in purple are these have changed case. The ones that are blue and red are added and removed. So it's kind of nice for just comparing two files, see what you changed. I mean, you can always use the Linux diff command as well, which isn't all that useful. If you do diff-u, I think it's a bit more useful, it has pluses and minuses. But again, vimdiff is very, very clear. And as I'll cover in a few minutes, you can actually copy and paste things between the two sides. So nice and easy. Okay, so that's going to bring me up to, all right, any questions so far? Did I cover anything? Did I go too fast? Yeah, that's what we're doing now. Split tabs and mouse. So, Gavin.pl again. So, a lot of the time you never, in an editor, I mean, you never have just one file open. There's various ways to cover this. Vim 7, which is the one that I think all our Zens have now, adds support for tabs. It's a bit trickier to figure out. Older Vims, and I mean every Vim we have in the office supports split windows. So split windows is kind of nice. Let's say you're editing this file. Say you're editing this file and you want it to split it up. So let's say I want to work on the top of the file and the bottom of the file. So I can go to the top of this file and say, I want to delete all these lines. You see, I get too long. I don't know, whatever. So I can make changes to the bottom of the file here, and then hit Control-W and hit up, and go to the top of the file, or the other window. Again, not all that useful. Occasionally I find it nice when I want to make a quick change. You know, you're in Perl, you want to go. So you're at the bottom of the file, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta add something to the top. So you quickly split, you go to the top, and go use stuff, right? And then you can quit, and it will just close that tab. So it's kind of useful that way. Overall, I don't find that mode very specifically useful, but split in general is very useful. You can always go split, and then give it another text file or another file, and that will actually open both files at the same time. And you can split many times. You can keep splitting as much as you want. It gets a little bit trickier to read as you go.
I can switch from one to Windows 9.
So Control-W and then the direction you want to go. If you just want to go previous or next window, you can just do Control-W and it keeps going there. Or Control-W-W, which just keeps going. So you can hit Control-W over and over again. But if you're in any doubt, Control-W, which is window, and the direction you want to go. So Control-W up, Control-W down. On top of that, we don't have to just do horizontal splits. We can do vertical splits. So again, Control-Q closes. We can do visual split of Gavin.c, which lets you have even more of your screen split up. So if you want to copy between them, you can always do that. You go select what you want, paste. Select what you want, go over there and paste. So it's kind of nice if you're trying to compare files or look at differences and stuff like that. I found out recently about tabs. So tabs are like split windows, but a little bit less, or a little bit more transparent. A little, whatever. So you got your one file open, and you want to open another tab. So you go Tab, Edit, and then the file name. So Gavin.c. So if you see at the top, I don't know if you guys can all see, there's Gavin.pl and Gavin.c. And I'll open another one just for argument. Gavin 2. So we got 3 files. Once you got your tab open, it's pretty simple to go between them. Just remember GT. GT is go to tab. So GT by itself just goes to the next tab. If you go, if in this case, if I go 2GT, it goes to the second tab. If I go to 3GT, it goes to the third tab, and 1GT goes to the first tab. What the hell? hopefully I didn't screw that up. So one GT goes first tab, GT goes to next tab, and then 2 GT goes second tab. Again, not all that useful. Well, actually, very useful, assuming you're in an editor. But like me, I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to have to type keys every time. So this is where mouse mode comes in. I find mouse mode kind of actually fairly useful, but it has some downsides. What time are we at, anyways? Anyone know? Okay. So I guess this is going to be one of the last things I'm going to specifically cover. So you can always find out what mode, or mouse has various modes. You can turn on them for insert mode, the normal command line mode, any other mode. I find most of the time, for me personally, I really only want to be able to use the scroll wheel and click on tabs. So in that case, you can go set mouse equals N, and then I can select the different tabs with my mouse, no problem, just like a normal editor, which is kind of nice. GT will still work, so you can switch back and forth. The only problem is I can no longer select text, right? So if you're in that mode, you can always hit Shift, and you can always select text that way. But I guess there's upsides and downsides. If you turn on mouse for Vim, Vim will take over your mouse. The advantage of setting it to normal mode, which is N, means once you're in insert mode, your mouse works as it used to, which is no problem. So I find that useful for scrolling. So I can scroll with the mouse wheel, I can click between files like that, but then when I'm editing and I'm actually trying to do copy and paste, it works as normal. Okay, I guess the other thing is if you want to learn more about these kind of things, you can always go help, or :help, which pulls up the help menu, which isn't all that intuitive on how to use, but you can always, I don't know how to do that. But you can, oh, that's how that works. I'm not showing that yet. I'm still not going to go over that because that's confusing.
Explain how the info system came into being back in the old days.
But the more important thing is when you're doing help, you can always help on specific things. So you can help on split. You can go help mouse, and again, it's just :Q to quit. So help mouse, and they give you all the list of commands. If you want to mess with them, you can go set mouse equals H, whatever else. Set mouse equals N. But they do have the list there. So help system gives you much more information. If you want to turn off mouse again, you can always go set mouse equals, and that turns it back to the normal default. You guys, anything else? You guys, anything else you want me to go over again that went too fast or you forgot about?
Earlier on, Derek had something about putting the comment at the beginning of the line.
No commenting out of block.
Yeah,
Did we go over that?
Anyways. You did it, but you did it really fast.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's switch or replacement.
Okay, so Control V, as I went over, right, visual mode has three ways. There's V by itself is character. Sorry, V by itself is character mode. Shift V is line mode, and Control V is column mode. Right? So what Derek was saying is you can actually go to the beginning of your line, go Control V, which is character, and then select what you want, Shift I, and then and then hit escape, and it comments it out again. You see what I did?
So what's the Shift I?
It's to tell it insert mode.
But before the character you're on. By default, insert goes after the character you're on. So if I'm here and go insert, no, it does on the character you're on. Sorry, right? It tries to add there. If I'm at the beginning of the line and I hit I, it won't add properly. Shift I will go before that. Anything else?
And then if you wanted to get rid of them all, you could use Control V to highlight them, and then just X to delete them. I use that quite a bit when I'm commenting out little chunks of code every so often.
Another good one that I know is XP to quickly shift two characters next to each other if you misspell the as TEH or something.
So
Just
XP?
real quick, XP.
Nice.
You can
So
also
that's
have
delete
it
and paste.
autocorrect those.
Yeah. Real simple as that.
You can set in your Vim RC to autocorrect that as well. Because I do that all the time.
So, did I do what? No, I don't know about those, and I don't think we want to cover them in the next 5 minutes.
Can't do marks, I don't remember.
I'm gonna start up a forum topic, and maybe you guys can post other ideas there because I want to learn some new ones too.
You could, like, the exclamation mark, I guess, could be thought as running anything on the mark.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes you write code and you test and you want to make sure that it goes to the database. Instead of closing the file and opening it or opening the screen, you can just go colon and then run your MySQL command.
That's one I should have covered. Again, yeah. So sometimes you're in your file, so not quite that. That's actually the weirder way of doing it. Let's say you're in your file. There's two methodologies to be able to run things without closing your file. You can hit Control Z, which puts it into the background, and then you can always bring it back by hitting FG and bring it back to the foreground. Personally, I like doing :shell, which just opens up a brand new shell, and then I can run whatever I want, and then hit Control D and it goes back to, or log out, goes right back to Vim that I had open. So if you know you want to shell and go, oh, what was that mic? What was that? What did my host file say? Or actually, that's a bad example because you can edit that in Vim. But
So what happens if you try to VI the same file in the shell? Is it smart enough to know that it's a shell?
Yeah, it should recognize a swap file. So
Yeah. I was wondering if it was smart enough to know that, hey, you're already editing that
no,
file.
it's a completely new shell. It doesn't know anything about it. I don't know, but if you wanted, let's say you wanted to go move a file, or rename a file or something like that, you could do that. So again, there's Control Z and FG, and then or shell, depends on what you prefer. Anything else?
If you're in a file that it doesn't recognize a file extension for it.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was supposed to cover. So Vim has various syntax files built in to do highlighting and various rules and stuff like that. So by default, it's file type. Yeah. So if I open a .pl file, by default that is Perl, because it knows that, right? So let's say I have Gavin.pl, but I named it Gavin, right? It's going to go, well, it is smart enough. Damn you.
It recognizes the.
All right. Okay. Let's say I didn't do that. Okay, so it thinks it's a text file. It doesn't really know anything. It's just a text file, right? You can always go set F and then Perl, and it syntax highlights and does all the other stuff that you need to do. You can set it to anything else. You're like, no, it's not Perl. It's C. It's not C. It's Lisp. Whatever you want, it can handle that. So.
You should do like a 1 minute intro to screen.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get Nigel to do a presentation on the screen.
That's just not here.
So, anything else? Or are we calling this done? Done?
Cool.
Done. Ah.